Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about a really important topic that's been coming up in our office more and more, and I've been having some really neat conversations with people, so I wanted to delve into this with a video. And the idea here is mental and emotional health. It's no secret a lot of people are struggling with anxiety, depression. There's a laundry list of other things that come up with that. But the interesting thing I want to talk about is within healthcare, and I don't know how we got to this point, there's a real tendency to talk about physical health is over here, mental emotional health is over here, and we're going to put them in these different baskets and they're not related and we're not going to overlap those two things at all. Now, the reason I think this is really interesting is because when we're going through our doctorate program and we're just learning about the nervous system and you're learning about neuroanatomy, one of the first things they start to teach you is something called the brainstem. It's one of the most important things in our body, and unfortunately many people haven't even really heard of it. So the brainstem, if you haven't heard of it, is this area right at the top of your spinal cord, and it connects your brain to your spinal cord. It's right here at the top of the neck, so it's about 1.5 inches of tissue. And the reason it's so important is it controls about 80% of everything that keeps you alive in your body. So all these really important, complicated systems that we don't have to think about, digestion, sleep cycle, mood, heart rate, blood pressure. I mean, that list goes on and on. So we have all these cool things happening in our body. And usually when we're thinking of our brain, we're thinking about how we think and our conscious thoughts and those types of things. But ultimately, our nervous system is taking care of a lot on its own, and that's called the autonomic nervous system. But again, brainstem sitting right here. So I'm sure you heard me mention it, but one of the things that is also controlled in the brainstem is there's a lot of connections between what's called your limbic system, which is what controls our emotions. There's also a lot of talk with the frontal cortex, which is what we kind of associate ourselves as human beings as setting us apart from other animals. So like that creativity, the imagination, the high processing, logic, all that's happening in the frontal cortex as well. So when we start to look at this, what I see for a lot of people is we have misalignments. There's wear and tear, there's accidents and injuries that happen over the course of a lifetime. So a lot of people have stress at the top of the neck, and a lot of people already know this. It's like, yeah, this always feels tight, or I can turn my head well this way, but I can't turn my head really that well this way. Or my head feels really heavy. I get headaches all the time. It feels really tight. I mean, again, the list goes on and on. So the thing that I've really valued being able to speak with about people is when people come in, it's really, really common that they're noting these physical things like, yeah, I get tightness here, I get neck pain, I get nerve pain down the arm. So they note those kind of things. And it's really common that they also then say, yeah, I also have a lot of anxiety. I'm struggling with depression. I have horrible brain fog, or I got like ADHD symptoms where it feels like my brain is just like on overdrive all the time, or I'm trying to go to bed and my brain won't turn off. So again, all these things usually come up together. So it's more common that I see those things come up together than not. And what I really wanted to introduce in this video, because I've had people just crying of like, why has nobody ever like brought this up before? And again, I think a real detriment of the healthcare system these days is that when emotional and mental issues start showing up, we start to talk about it like it's an inherent problem with you, or it's an inherent problem with your brain that needs to be fixed like within your brain, or that's just how you are kind of thing. And I see it's unfortunate, because what we see for a lot of our people is, yeah, we got this big misalignment, the head's sitting in a compressed position right where the brain stem's at, and those nerves are getting irritated. So just like any other nerve in the body, if it's getting irritated, it doesn't function like it's supposed to. And what most nerves do when they get irritated is go through a process called hyperfacilitation, which means they start firing more rapidly and hyperspastically than they would normally. Now, it's annoying enough when this is a nerve that's coming out of your neck and going into your arm, and it's like, yeah, my hand feels tingly, or I'm getting pain shooting down the arm. Like, that's bad enough. But when we're coming back to the nerves that are responsible for controlling your body and how your brain is functioning, suddenly we're showing up with really central issues, and it is your central nervous system. So now all of a sudden it's not only just like, hey, I got some pain and discomfort, it's like I feel like I don't have control of my brain, or I feel like disconnected from reality. It's just like there's not a good connection point. So it can be even hard to put into words sometimes. So if nothing else, I would really like to highlight the point that I really see that the physical body and the mental emotional states are very closely tied together. And obviously it's not the only thing, but if you can imagine that all day, every day, we got this consistent stress going on the nerves and your body's trying to regulate itself, I think it's a layer of stress that doesn't get looked at nearly enough. So I'm an upper cervical chiropractor, and obviously this is what I'm looking at all day, every day. But what I hear from most people is like, why didn't anyone tell me about this? Or I've never heard about this before. So if you've never heard about it, upper cervical chiropractic and chiropractors are designed and trained in looking really specifically at this area to see if there is any stress on that brainstem. So the technique I do is called NUCCA, NUCCA. There's some other great upper cervical techniques, Atlas orthogonal, there's Blair. So again, there's multiple different ways to address this, and chiropractors have a lot of different techniques available, and some chiropractors specialize in that upper cervical technique. Now, that was part one of this video. In an upcoming video, we're going to talk about another thing that can really play into that mental emotional stress. So again, if you take away anything from this video, please know that what I see clinically is oftentimes there is more of a relationship between what's happening in the body and the mental emotional state than most people give it credit for. And that brainstem is such an important area that just never gets looked at, that I think it's worth considering on a more consistent basis for people who are struggling with depression, anxiety, or any of those mental emotional issues. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. I'll post the link for the NUCCA organization. They have a directory for chiropractors all around the country, and looking forward to continuing this conversation.